From old stories to new, from Ouija boards to spells, we've got a spooky one today. We are diving into the paranormal today as we cover the top 10 evil people who summoned real demons. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Ed. When Tammy was a kid, her and her sister would often use Ouija boards, and it always seemed that they would end up communicating with the same spirit who was named Ed. Ed apparently wasn't super nice because he would continually threaten their younger brother during this time, and he was never with them during the times that they were using the board. So it was definitely weird. Eventually they got creeped out enough that they got rid of the board and just put Ed behind them. A few years later, when their little brother got older, he had used a Ouija board with his friend a couple of times, and he came home to tell his older sisters a story that had him freaked out. He explained that every time him and his friend used the board, there kept being a spirit named Ed who was threatening him. Apparently their mother ended up banning the use of Ouija boards in their house, which really is the right move. In our number 9 spot today, we have The Book. Okay, so what if I told you that someone out there really thought it was a good idea to write a book that is for children, but it tells them how to summon demons? I mean, listen, for years there's been urban legends like Bloody Mary and Charlie, which of course tell us instructions on how to summon those respective demons, but urban legends are part of being a child. It's spooky stories to share amongst friends, but this book really takes things to an entirely new level. Many who are more well versed in the worlds of witchcraft and the paranormal have explained that this book, written by Aaron Layton, is basically a grimoire. It contains 72 different demons that can be conjured by those who read it for their own personal gain, which is basically the definition of black magic. The book not only includes these sort of cute drawings of creepy demons, but it also includes the symbols for each demon, which some have warned is also a very bad sign. In our number 9 spot today, we have The Room. This story comes from an anonymous source, but we'll call them Alex. Alex and their fiance, who we'll call Sam, were given a Ouija board that their friend had apparently found on the side of the road, which I feel like is the worst place to find a new Ouija board. Alex and Sam decided to use it one night and began to ask questions. They asked who was with them and if they were an angel, demon, or spirit. It replied that their name was Mo and that they were a demon by your creation. Alex and Sam were obviously freaked out and just asked a few more simple questions, like, what is your favorite poster of ours on the wall? Mo replied with bloody mess. Alex and Sam had a kiss photo with Gene Simmons on it that had blood everywhere on it. Alex pointed to that poster and asked, this one? Mo said yes. Alex and Sam had a few skeleton heads that sat on their TV, so they asked Mo to move the skeleton heads so that they could have proof Mo was real. Mo said to close their eyes, so they did. A few seconds later, all of the skulls on the TV had moved to be facing them. Only Sam and Alex were in the room at the time, and they had been sitting right next to each other, which would have made it impossible for one of them to be pranking the other. In our number 7 spot today, we have Niccolo Paganini. Niccolo was a professional violinist who was born in 1782. His parents began to send him to lessons when he was just 5 years old, and by age 15 he was already touring the world because he was so talented. What's interesting about Niccolo and his story, other than his obvious musical genius however, is the rumors surrounding his talent and subsequent recognition. According to some, people believe that his own mother summoned the devil in order for her son to be the extreme talent that he is. There are many modern diagnoses that could potentially explain some of what made Niccolo so talented, and I mean, we all know quite well that sometimes people are just born with extreme talent, but of course in the early 1800s people in their imagination certainly ran wild. The final reason why people believe he may have made a deal with the devil is because shortly before his death he was quite sick. The doctors had a feeling he was nearing death, so they sent in a priest to pray over him. When he first saw the priest, it is said that he freaked out and sent the priest away. Many people believe that him pushing the priest away was only a confirmation of the fact that he was working with the devil. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Lady Ghost Demon. This story comes from the Reddit user 7-Leg Spider, and they really just dive in. Basically, for several years, spiders saw what they thought was just a lady ghost every night at the door of the closet closet. It happened for so long that Spider just got used to it and even started saying goodnight to her. Spider says she didn't look bad or rotten, she was just a lady with pale skin and dark hair. Anyway, after a few years of this, Spider finally tells a friend at school about the lady. He of course didn't believe the story right away, but the next day at school he tells Spider that this lady tried to hurt him while he was sleeping. Now Spider didn't believe the friend and thought he was just playing a prank. Some more time goes by and Spider decides to tell another friend about the lady, and the same thing happens where the next time she comes and tells Spider that the lady had tried to hurt her while she was sleeping. The first friend and the second friend didn't know each other, so it's not like they could have been conspiring, which made Spider believe his first friend was telling the truth. Then, a while after that, Spider is on a video chat with a friend and they're talking about the paranormal when they both see something run across the screen. They chalk it up to being a glitch and Spider starts telling this friend about the lady, and then Spider begins to get extremely dizzy like they're about to pass out. After it goes away, Spider tells their friend that they're okay, and the friend replies that they were out of it for at least a full minute and that he could feel that someone was there trying to hurt Spider. In the end, I'm just really glad that Spider and all of the friends ended up being okay, and I really hope they found a way to get rid of that demon lady. In our number 5 spot today we have the meditation. This story comes from someone online who starts off by explaining that they accidentally summoned a demon once and it was a huge mistake. They say that it all started when they were meditating with some stones that a friend had given them. They say that the stones were polished and given to them in a medicine bag. When they went to meditate, they were holding 4 in each hand, just letting their mind wander, when they felt something or someone slam into their back. After this, they heard demonic laughter and a bunch of banging upstairs when there shouldn't have been anyone up there. They immediately blew out their candle and left the house. When they returned to the house later, they explained that this is when they started to see shadow crawlers all over the walls. The strange occurrences continued as they would hear the sound of children laughing in their home despite no children being there, and things would suddenly disappear only to be found later in places that had already been checked. They finished this story by saying that they ended up fleeing the house one night and burning it down, never to look back. I'm gonna be honest, not sure about the whole burning the house down thing. Seems maybe a little illegal, but I guess all is fair in the world of demonology. In our number 4 spot today we have Zozo. This story comes from the Reddit user Archaic Alchemy, who we'll call A. When A was 22, they were staying with their sister, and one night they had a couple good friends over to hang out and play around with a Ouija board, which is always the start of a good demon story. A had read about people encountering an entity called Zozo, and A really just wanted some proof that things exist beyond our physical realm, so they really wanted to use the Ouija board. Everyone places their hand on the planchette and A calls out to Zozo. It took a few attempts before anything happened, but then the planchette began to move in figure 8s. No matter what was asked, it just kept moving in this pattern until it finally spelled out M-A-M-A. A kept asking who they were talking to, and eventually they spelled out Zozo, and then things really escalated. The planchette was taken to the letters to spell out kill you, and when A asked who, they spelled out one of the friends' names. They didn't take it seriously and kept asking more questions, and one friend made the mistake of insulting Zozo. The planchette begins frantically moving through the alphabet backwards over and over before it stops. Then the energy in the room completely drops, and A knows that this means that Zozo has manifested itself. Suddenly A begins to laugh maniacally with no control over it. A could feel Zozo's presence inside and could feel Zozo turning all of this hatred and anger towards the friend that had been named before. A's emotions suddenly completely switched and they began crying uncontrollably before again suddenly snapping back to anger. A's head turns involuntarily to look at the friend with a menacing grin as A pushes the planchette towards this friend. The friends decide it's rightfully time to leave, and shortly after they left, A felt like they regained control again and Zozo's presence had disappeared. I'm very glad that nothing even crazier happened and that Zozo wasn't able to end up harming this friend in the end. In our number 3 spot today we have Giuseppi Tartini. Okay, so this story is one that is kind of similar to Niccolo's, but even more strange. Giuseppi was an Italian violinist and composer who lived during the 1700s. He went on to compose a song called The Devil's Trill Sonata, and not only this, but he also claimed to wake up one night to find Satan sitting on the edge of his bed playing the violin. Seems as though the devil really likes violins, apparently. What's extremely curious is that after this alleged encounter, it is said that Giuseppi's violin skills hit heights never seen before. He was able to suddenly play extremely complicated trills that are impossible for most musicians. Apparently even today the sonata is too difficult for many musicians to play, which is why people believe that perhaps this story really was true. In our number 2 spot today we have the Grey Skin Demon. This story comes from Pink Magic 724 on Reddit, and it is about a night that they had a few years ago while still in college. Pink Magic's best friend of many years was in town, so they went out for a dinner to catch up and spend some time together. They of course ended up getting a bit caught up, as best friends do, and before they know it, it's around 2 AM and definitely time for them to head home. Pink Magic's friend was the one who drove, so they headed off to Pink Magic's house. They're at an intersection waiting for the light to turn green when Pink Magic turns their head and looks out the window into the car next to them. This is when she sees the person next to them is looking directly back at them, but this person has grey skin, completely black eyes with no white, and they're smiling but their teeth are long and sharp. Whoever or whatever this thing is will not break eye contact. Pink Magic tries to scream, but no sound will come out. I've had that nightmare before, and eventually the friend sees this creature too and immediately speeds out of there. To this day, neither of them like to talk about it, and neither of them are quite sure what exactly they witnessed. In our number 1 spot today we have Johann, Georg, Faust. According to the stories passed down about this man, it is said that he was an alchemist and astrologer who lived in Germany during the 1500s. It is said that in his plight to become the smartest man in the world while also enjoying as many earthly pleasures as possible, he summoned the help of a demon named Mephistopheles. I thought that that was just one of the cats from Cats, but apparently not. Anyways, there are terrible stories about how cruel and truly evil this man was, and as a professor, it is said he looked down on everyone else because he thought he was smarter than them. Local priests apparently believed that he had actually made a deal with the devil, and that his pet dog was actually a demon who was able to shapeshift. What's most interesting about this is that during his life, he did publish several grimoires, and in 1540, while conducting some sort of alchemaic experiment, his laboratory exploded. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye!